Jim began teaching at UCI in 1965, the year this university was founded, and he has taught here ever since. He has dedicated his professional life to making this a better place, and we are all grateful to him for his achievements, which are considerable, but also for his love, which is fierce. The winner of many awards, including a 2007 Academy of American Poets Award, a Guggenheim Fellowship, a Whiting Foundation Writers Award, the Arthur O. Rents Prize from the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and the Shelley Memorial Prize from the Poetry Society of America, Jim's standing as one of the best poets writing in English today has been affirmed by Louise Gluck and Robert Pinsky, among others.
The focus for Jim is always on the work, that it must speak for itself, that it, and no ancillary apparatus, must instruct you how to read it. The only thing that will teach you how to read a poem of his is the poem itself, although you will also be helped if you have read all of Jim's poems that have preceded it, because each of his book-length poems is built solidly on that foundation, all of a piece, like the interlocking mortises and tenons of the Pasadena craftsman houses that he writes about lovingly in Four Good Things. As in a house designed by Green and Green, no detail is too small for the most meticulous rendering, literally too small, as in the structure of a single cell, nor too large, again literally, as in the aerial view of the shoals of Arran in the Firth of Clyde in capacity, because they are all of a piece within the capacity of this vision and this voice. In an essay, our friend Louise Gluck defined voice in poetry as a distinctive style of thought. Jim's style of thought, as it shows itself in his sentences, both spoken and written, is so distinctive as to be sui generis. His regard for the sacredness of the ordinary he probably first encountered in James Joyce, and his erotic rendering of the minute terrors of mortality in Franz Kafka, and some of his ear and ambition to articulate large subjects in Ezra Pound and Beethoven and Mahler, but the rigor and particularity with which he has blended them into his own instrumentation is wholly his own, as is his focus, the intensity of which is his signature, inevitably grounded in human feeling and designed to articulate it. His poetry, taken as a whole, is autobiographical in the deepest sense, even when it's not explicitly so. It's the autobiography not only of a person, but of all persons at risk and condemned to death. In other words, every human being. To be able to articulate this so completely and without sentimentality has required Jim to reject poetic convention at every turn, with a discipline that allows him to show his subject clearly and gracefully and seemingly from every angle. In other words, you're in for a treat. Please welcome James McMichael.
Would have myrrh from a woman, and cinnamon and aloes, smoother than oil is her mouth. She flatters him with it. Between her lips lies death. The young man learns that as his bride, he should instead have taken wisdom to him. Wisdom is the words that figure her as fear of the Lord. She has seen Israel choose the ways of the oppressor. The young men's strangeness would claim she instructs. Wisdom pleads with them at the city gates that when pride comes, then comes shame. Let a man meet rather with a bear and her whelps than with folly. One who is quiet is thought to have understanding. Who speaks first in his own cause seems just, then his neighbor speaks, and there is question. Withhold not good from those to whom it is due. The Lord's eyes are on every place, as on hell and destruction. How much more then are they on men's children's hearts? Whose order was it that made the ends of the earth? Who put clothes on the deep? What is his name, and what is his son's name, if you can tell? Wisdom can. Still a child, she attended God when God had not yet divided the waters. It was no one but God's to do, to divide what isn't said from what is. If God was male already, wisdom was not male. It may have been wisdom's difference from God that let God speak good into being. Wisdom was God's delight. She was with him over the waters. The still unformed deep would have lasted had God not given it form. It made God tremble that his call for it to be light there would not let night touch day. There had to be room between them, or they couldn't be what God said they were. God and wisdom were two. Day and night were two also. Day gave it to be seen at once that down was and up. The deep had a face. God's.
As much as I loved Samuel Johnson, and I did, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And now I was listening to James McMichael talk about a poem, and then about another poem, and I understood that I didn't know how to read. I didn't have a clue. I arrived to UC Irvine, having studied scansion. I could tick off the stresses, spondy here, trochee there, caesura, sure. But I didn't know how to honor how those words had come to be on that page, and why, and in what capacity. Capacity is both how much a thing holds and how much it can do. Jim wrote that, obviously. You can hear his music. It's the first sentence, or most of the first 3 lines of Above the Red Deepwater Clays. And it's about the earth, volcanic eruption, but it's about words, too, language, because Jim taught me also that all writing is in some ways a commentary about writing. It could be very quiet, it could be overt, but it was there, as Jim is there, always.
We're going to ask Jim to come up. And there's a very large cake. And it says one good thing on it. No, it really says that. Okay, so this is something. No, you can open it a little bit later, but this many people in this room contributed a little. It added up. And I'm told that it's. I kept. There are a lot of emails. We still have time. I'm in my office. Just share that one thing. My father, who I see very rarely, and I'm regretting that, visited me once in California, and he brought his golf club, so I had no idea what to do. And so I called Jim, and Jim let me play golf. Really nice. Okay, so that's why this.
If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road and I'll share a load. If you just call me, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long, so I'm gonna need somebody to